Stop building on broken ground. Why healing must come before hustle. I want to tell you about someone who is changing the game, not with a flashy startup or a viral campaign, but with something far more radical. Her name is Ronecia Miller, but everyone calls her Ronnie. She's a mother of three sons, a trauma informed care specialist, a champion for workforce development, and a quiet revolutionary who believes that your struggles don't define you, your growth and purpose do. Ronnie's mission centers on community empowerment, restorative practices, and creating safe spaces where healing isn't just possible, it's prioritized. And what she shared with me didn't just challenge my thinking, it shattered everything I thought I knew about success, ambition, and what it truly takes to build something lasting. Let me start with something that might make you uncomfortable. We live in a culture that worships the grind. Hustle harder, network smarter, launch bigger, build faster. Especially for Black professionals, the message is painfully clear. If you want to make it, you have to outwork everyone else. You have to be twice as good to get half as far. You have to show up, show out, and never, ever slow down. And for Black women in particular, there's this unspoken expectation that we carry it all, the cape, the community, the family, the business, and the dream without breaking a sweat or shedding a tear. But here's what Ronnie taught me, and what research is now confirming in ways that should shake us all. True community empowerment for Black professionals often begins not with grand business launches, but with personal healing from trauma. That's right. Not with the perfect pitch deck, not with the flawless brand strategy, not even with the most powerful network. It starts with healing because unresolved pain, the kind we carry silently, the kind we've been taught to push through, the kind we've been conditioned to hide, can silently sabotage even the most ambitious plans. Think about that for a moment. How many of us have tried to build something meaningful while carrying wounds we've never addressed? How many of us have launched businesses, led teams, or served communities while running on fumes, fueled by survival mode instead of purpose? How many of us have smiled through the pain, performed through the trauma, and wondered why we can't seem to break through to the next level? Ronnie's work reveals a truth we don't talk about enough. Healing precedes hustle. And if we skip that step, we're building on broken ground. Research from trauma informed care studies backs this up in ways that are impossible to ignore. Professionals trained in restorative practices experience 30 to 50% higher resilience in high stress entrepreneurial environments. 30 to 50%. Let that sink in. That's not a marginal difference. That's not a small advantage. That's the difference between thriving and barely surviving. That's the difference between a business that scales and one that crumbles under the weight of unhealed trauma. And for Black entrepreneurs, navigating systemic barriers, economic inequities, and the emotional toll of being the first or the only, that resilience isn't just helpful, it's essential. It's survival. It's the foundation upon which everything else is built. Let me tell you a story that brings this to life in the most powerful way. Tarana Burke grew up in the Bronx. At 14 years old, she survived sexual assault. That trauma could have silenced her. It could have defined her in ways that limited her impact, that kept her small, that made her invisible. But instead, why Burke chose healing. She didn't bypass the pain. She didn't pretend it didn't exist. She didn't put on a brave face and keep pushing. She leaned into it, sought support, and eventually found it Just Be Incorporated in 2006, creating spaces for other survivors to heal and advocate. She implemented trauma informed care and restorative circles, um, building survivor led support networks that empowered thousands of people who had been told to stay silent, to move on, to get over it. In 2017, Time magazine named her Person of the Year. Today, her work has transformed global conversations about Black women's trauma, inspiring workforce safe spaces, and entrepreneurial resilience. Burke's story proves what Ronnie has been teaching all along. Struggles fuel purpose, but only when we give ourselves permission to heal first. Only when we stop running from the pain and start running toward wholeness. Now, let's talk about what happens when we combine healing with legacy. Ronnie is a mother of three sons, and she'll tell you without hesitation that they motivate everything she does. Family fuels legacy. When you're building not just for yourself, um, but for the next generation, your purpose shifts. It's no longer about personal success. It's no longer about proving you're good enough or smart enough or strong enough. It's about creating opportunities, opening doors, and leaving a blueprint for those who come after you. That's what turns personal purpose into community impact. That's what makes the work sacred. Consider Melody Hobson, co CEO of Ariel Investments. Raised by a single mother in Chicago's projects, Hobson joined Ariel at 19 and rose through the ranks despite facing racial barriers in finance and the personal pressures of an under resourced upbringing. She didn't just climb the ladder for herself, she used restorative mentorship and family motivated legacy building to develop workforce pipelines, creating pathways for others who look like her, who had been told they didn't belong, who had been locked out of rooms they deserved to be in. Today, Ariel manages over $20 billion in assets. And Hobson became the first Black woman to serve on Starbucks board and later chair DreamWorks. Her impact? Advanced Black economic empowerment, creating opportunities through education and investment access. Hobson's journey demonstrates that growth over struggles defines success, and when you build with legacy in mind, you scale not just a business, but a movement. You scale hope, you scale possibility, you scale freedom for those who come after you. But here's where it gets even more powerful. And this is where Ronnie's work truly shines. Her work isn't just about healing and legacy, it's about equipping leaders with the tools to create safe spaces for collective advancement. She's trained in trauma informed care, restorative justice, domestic violence awareness, and human trafficking awareness. These aren't just buzzwords, these aren't just certificates on a wall. These are life saving, community building, future shaping skills. Because when you understand trauma, when you recognize the signs of domestic violence or human trafficking, when you know how to facilitate restorative practices, you become more than an entrepreneur. You become a healer. You become a protector. You become someone who can hold space for others to grow, even when they're still healing. Stacey Abrams embodies this beautifully. The daughter of ministers, Abrams worked multiple jobs after college, channeling resilience into law and policy. She faced political trauma after a devastating loss and family displacement due to economic hardship. But she applied her awareness of human trafficking and domestic violence to create safe civic spaces and business incubators. She founded Fair Fight, secured over 800,000 voter registrations, launched the New Georgia Project, and authored bestsellers on leadership. Her work boosted Black voter turnout and entrepreneurship in the South, fostering healing communities. Abrams showed us that purpose born from pain drives systemic change and professional uplift. She turned survival into something sacred, something supportive for others, something that will outlive her. So, what does all of this mean for you? What does it mean for the high achieving Black woman who's been running on empty, who's been told to be strong, to keep going, to never let them see you sweat? It means it's time to release the cape. It means softness is not weakness. It's a radical act of self love. It means you don't have to hustle your way into worthiness. You don't have to prove yourself by carrying everyone else's burdens. You don't have to build a legacy on the foundation of unhealed trauma. You don't have to sacrifice your peace, your joy, your rest, your sanity to be successful. That's a lie. That's a trap. That's the very thing keeping you from the breakthrough you deserve. Ronnie's work and the stories of Burke, Hobson, and Abrams all point to the same truth. Healing is not a detour from success, it's the pathway to it. Restorative practices are not a luxury, they're a necessity. And building with family and community in mind isn't just noble, it's sustainable because when you heal, you build from a place of wholeness. When you prioritize rest and boundaries, you protect your peace. When you create opportunities for the next generation, you ensure that your legacy outlives you. Let me ask you something that might change everything. What if your deepest struggle is the key to your greatest legacy? What if the pain you've been carrying, the trauma you've been avoiding, the wounds you've been hiding, what if those are the very things that, once healed, will unlock your purpose? What if the reason you haven't scaled that business, launched that program, or stepped into that leadership role isn't because you're not smart enough, connected enough, or ready enough, but because you haven't given yourself permission to heal first? Ronnie's message is crystal clear. Your struggles don't define you. Your growth and purpose do, but growth requires healing. Purpose requires rest. Legacy requires boundaries. And community empowerment requires leaders who are whole, not just strong. Here's the truth that nobody wants to say out loud. We've been sold a lie. We've been told that strength means never breaking, never resting, never asking for help. We've been told that if we just work harder, push longer, sacrifice more, we'll finally arrive. But arrive where? To burnout, to resentment, to a life that looks successful on the outside but feels empty on the inside. That's not legacy, that's survival. And survival is not the same as thriving. Ronnie Miller's out here doing the work, creating safe spaces, training leaders, and reminding us that healing precedes hustle. Family fuels legacy, and restorative practices empower collective advancement. And if her work has taught me anything, it's this, yeah, the most revolutionary thing a Black woman can do is choose herself. I mean, heal herself and build from that place of wholeness. So here's what I need you to do. Not next month, not when things slow down, not when you finally have time right now. I need you to take one trauma informed step this week, just one. Maybe it's joining a restorative circle. Maybe it's reaching out to a therapist or counselor. Maybe it's setting a boundary with someone who's been draining your energy. Maybe it's mentoring a young professional and sharing your story, not just your success, but your struggle and your healing. Maybe it's simply giving yourself permission to rest without guilt, without apology, without explanation. Because the world needs what you're building. Your community needs your leadership. Your family needs your legacy, but they need you whole. They need you healed. They need you soft, rested, and grounded in purpose, not survival. Your deepest struggle might just be the key to your greatest legacy, but you'll never unlock it if you keep building on broken ground. Heal first, then build, then watch what happens when you stop surviving and start thriving. The world is waiting, and so is your legacy.